Hi, Sandra. How are you? How are the plans going for Colombia? Good. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to decide if I was going to go to the college this morning. So you guys didn't see the mess in my house, but I decided that in some weird way, it'll become part of the teaching. So there's my house, everyone. This is the last time you're going to see it because I'm starting to move today into an adult house. That's what I keep calling it. I'm adulting. Um, yeah, and I think what because I was trying to think, all right, you know, how am I, it is a little embarrassing for you guys to see how messy things are. It's actually what keeps my house normally clean because I have to teach. So I'm like, oh, I have to, present for other people. But, the thing that's interesting about studying emptiness is, which is what we're doing in this course, is that, really what we're going to be, what you might find, unfortunately, is that your mental afflictions might get a little bit worse. You might study emptiness, you might get deeper into it, and then some weird stuff just starts happening. You know, they say, when you're in the Diamond Cutter Sutra, um, Choni Lama's commentary says that if you do study emptiness, just be prepared. Be prepared. You know, they usually say, be prepared for like terrible headaches or quick disasters that they tend to resolve themselves quickly. I mean, they do tend to resolve themselves, but they can be very intense. So, in honor of our purifications, ta-da! I've made a connection with the mess in my house. You know, because it will get messy. And why? Why does it get messy? This is what I was thinking because things did get messy for me, actually. Not in my house, but in my mind and in my emotional state. And I really think, and we're going to get to this today. We're going to be learning about how our own ignorance creates the cycle of, we use this word samsara. So the cycle of samsara, like the cycle of suffering. But what do we mean by that? You know, but how does misunderstanding your world create these habits? And we're going to learn about Maitreya's presentation on that today. And so I think the reason, this is hypothesis. Okay, this is not Choni Lama. This is not a great Lama, who we read. This is just little Tim's opinion from my limited experience. And by limited, I mean 20 years of purifications. um, I think that the more you study how you are you, as in like not your fault, it is your fault, but not like you have control of it. How we're a co-conspirator in our own suffering. Like we're so involved in it, we don't even realize it. We're so like, we're so trapped in this misunderstanding, and then we see the Maya, like the illusion. Like the illusion is so strong that it doesn't even look like an illusion. And then when you start pulling that apart, it's like those old habits go, no, 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 no. That's not how it is. And they basically come out extremely strong as a way to remind you that they're still there. And so how the power of an intellectual or you know a studied understanding of emptiness has on those afflictions. So, don't worry if you haven't seen emptiness directly, because the power of just thinking about it, like where is it coming from, can help purify it. Tons and tons of bad habits. And then once you start doing that, then you get to understand your larger patterns, like the thing that makes you you. What is it that makes you Constanta? What is it makes you Sandra? Thank you for your cameras on. I see 50 of 62 people. That's not bad. And it's not 50 people with cameras on. But, what is it that makes you you? Like, who are you? Right? And how are you defined by these deeper cycles? I had somebody, I would say I consider them an angel now, but they were not considered an angel then. They were considered a big pain in my ass. Translators, find the best expression in your language for pain in the ass. I don't know what that is, but and this person, you know, I don't know why I had to see this, because I'm not like that at all. And over the years, I we were also friends. So it was this weird, like, we're friends, but I like dislike 50% of your behavior. It was a weird, like, we did have an intimacy, a closeness. But, over time, I started to realize, like, this person doesn't realize what they're doing and hurting themselves with their behavior. And I was probably the most patient person with this individual. And then one day I was just like, it got like, things escalated. Oh, I like that, Sandra. That's a good one. Do you know how annoying it is to have sand in your underwear? That's her translation in Spanish. Just like one little sand in your underwear. Anyway, so what ended up happening is I got to a point, and then, your bodhisattva vows eventually say, they say that there's a proper time to cut people off because, they're hurting themselves. And, and they have to do it in a kind way and in a gentle way. And this person did not go down without a fight. I'll tell you that. I tried very nice. I tried a little stronger. I tried a little stronger. At one point, I pulled them aside. We went for a walk, and I was like, look, you are hurting people. And this is, this is why they're an angel, but, at the time they were not. They said, how did they say it exactly? It was, oh, you don't understand me. And I said, that's why I'm having a conversation with you. I don't understand. And they said, I'm from New York. And I'm like, okay, I'm from Pittsburgh. Okay, what? Like, what? How is this an argument? And they said, that's just how New Yorkers are. We're not being mean. This is just how we talk to people. And I was like, yeah, but it's mean. It's not nice. It's cold. It's distant. It's rude. It hurts people. You can't be dropping F bombs. F bombs, and for translators, means dropping swear words. Okay. If you don't know, you can't be using colorful, strong language towards people like that, especially at a Dharma center. Okay, I understand things get difficult, but you can't do that. and they said, no, I'm from New York. That's just how we are. And I'm like, you are an advanced practitioner. Do you have any idea how stupid that sounds? That's how I am. Right? I'm like, yeah, that's how you are. And that's why I'm pointing it out to you. That's how you are presenting today. And so, you know, understanding that this behavior that you believe is natural from its own side, built into you, that's never going to change, is you. And they were like, and they got so mad at me, and then there was the whole thing fell apart, right? You don't need to know the rest of the details. But I always stuck to this point of like, I'm from New York, you know, and I was like, well, that's a kind of pride. That's a kind of self-existent thing that's like somehow that gives you permission to be a jerk. I'm from New York. you know, Lena, be careful. I see you're driving. Thanks for turning on your camera. So, and much years later, I realized that, some of our most intense habits, some of our most intense personality definers, the things that you think make you you, this is just me. What are those things? Like, think right now. Everyone, take a moment. Maybe get out a pen, because it's a pen from its own side, and think about it. Like, what are some, yeah, let's take 1.5 minutes. We're going to have a little activity. Get some notes out on your computer, get, whatever, get a piece of paper out, get a pen. you know what are things, think about who you are, like the things that make you you, your personality, right? The good things, and maybe the things that are a little like edgy, like, yeah, exactly. You're a Virgo, I get it. I'm a Scorpio, excuse me. I know. Great. If you tell me that you're a Virgo, that's, oh, you think that's coming from its own side. Okay. Right. Get it? So write a couple things down that when you're talking to normal people and you're not in like some like elevated Dharma state, and everyone's like, oh, it's coming from you, and you're sitting around, right? You know, just normal people on the streets, like first date. How about this? You're going on a first date. I don't worry if you're married or in a committed partnership. Just imagine it's not cheating. You're going on a first date, right? Or you're meeting a new friend for the first time. That's it. And you're like, oh, or you're going on a job interview, and they're like, tell me about you. Tell me about your strengths and weaknesses. All right. So next 2 minutes, write down what you say about you. Who are you? Who are you, Anastasia? Who are you, Z? Right? Who are you? How do you describe yourself? And wish I had some music to play. I give you 3 minutes. And Lena, don't stop drive. Oh, you're on the side of the road. Okay. Don't write unless you got a Tesla there. No, you do not want me to sing to you right now. Okay, how about this? I'm not a good singer. That's a good one from my own side. I'll be right back. All right. There you go. Now we're back. Has anyone seen Cloud Cult in person? They're a great band. They're a lot of fun. Uh, great. So I don't know if Francisco put that song on purpose, probably did, but that was quite appropriate, right? So in the chat, put down the one that is your favorite one that you tell everybody. Just write it in your own language. It's fine. You don't have to. You can put it in your own language. I will download them and read them. I will translate them later. But just put in the chat your favorite thing that you like to tell people about yourself. That is you. Hmm. Either everyone's really shy or they're typing a novel. Hmm. This is great. Hmm. All right. So now that we got a few of them on there, put the put in the chat the thing that is the most embarrassing thing. I mean, you don't have to. Okay, let me rephrase that. You don't have to admit your most embarrassing thing. If you feel comfortable admitting it, okay, no one's forced to do it. But if you're comfortable admitting it, put something in there that you describe about yourself that's negative. Hmm. Hmm. Wow, it's interesting how much easier it was for you guys to put down negative things than positive things. That's an interesting thing to notice. Okay. All right. So thank you for sharing. I know it sometimes can be vulnerable to share. Um, so notice all those I statements. I'm this. I'm lazy. I'm a bean counter. I'm judgmental. I'm frustrated. What is it? I'm lazy, right? That was like 10 times in here, right? I'm stubborn. Like all of these things that we say about ourselves. I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, right? Every time you say those words, what are you doing? Every time you have the feeling before you even say the words, like, bless you, right? Every time you say that, every time you feel what it's like to be all of those things, and then the good things too, right? I'm a nerd. I like that one. Like, what does it feel like to be a nerd? I'm a good listener, right? I'm an Irish dancing teacher. I like that one, right? I'm flexible, right? You know, every time you say something, you're actually there's a bunch of other processes going on inside you way before you even utter the words. And this is what we're going to talk about in about 20 minutes. There's a whole process going on inside of you that's already the once the words are out, you think like it's way before that. Like that seed is already ripening in ignorance way in the past. Okay, sure, it might be happening in a pretty quick split second, but that split second has so many little things going on that we're not even aware of. So don't tell me you're from New York and you can't change. Oh, I like that one. Malaysians are always late. Right? Oh, Asians are a collective culture. Westerners are individualistic. Okay, we're defined by our ethnicities now, right? Oh, okay. Right. Oh, how about this one? This is my favorite. I don't participate in these conversations because I think it's really awful. It's like when a bunch of guys get together and complain about their wives or their partners, female partners, right? Because all women are like that, right? All men are having the same exact experience with their wives. Oh, the old ball and chain is calling. Ball and chain translators is the thing that you when you were a prisoner like 100 years ago, they put like a chain around your ankle and a heavy ball that you'd drag around so you couldn't escape, right? Oh, the old ball and chain is calling. I can't escape from my wife. She's put me in prison. You know, I'm not as privy to conversations when women that get together about their husbands, but I kind of imagine they're probably very similar. Different words, you guys can tell me what they are, and they might be different for you. But think about it, right? All of a sudden, we are so self judging the world so quickly that everything is always just like this, that we can't change it. You know, and then you develop patterns around it. And then you develop ways of thinking and ways of being, layer after layer. And all of a sudden, those layers are so thick that that's just how the world is for you. Right. And it doesn't mean there aren't patterns. And it doesn't mean like those things aren't real. We're not saying that. Like they are real experiences. When you feel the old ball and chain calling you, right? You feel trapped in your relationship, right? Well, do something about it. Like maybe you can change the seats. Maybe the reason your wife is calling is because you're an inattentive husband. You know, maybe maybe there's some reason that there's a behavior happening because your behavior and her behavior are actually very much linked to each other, right? You're not independent. Now, this isn't just about men and women, right? This is like all people, all relationships. Your relationships are so bound to each other, right? You're so bound to each other that the behaviors you establish, you guys are both contributing to it. And it's some kind of agreement, karmic agreement you made ages ago. And I'm not talking about a woo-woo karmic agreement. Like, oh, we decided this in heaven and came down to earth to work out this karmic contract. It's not what I mean. But it is a karmic contract. Think about it. Like you two did something in the past that now you're attracted, like you're like two magnets coming together to be like, oh, we can live this pattern out again. and you're not even aware of what's happening. And this is why, that's why these things are so important. Like, so when we talk about Maitreya in a few minutes, how he describes how this happens, right? Now you understand why. Like, anytime you make a comment about someone that they are like that, you are already so far away from the start of ignorance that you already lost. You've already created a karmic contract. You are just living it out. Unreflected habit cycling around and around and around. So is it okay to say things like, I'm a good person, I'm nice, I'm friendly? Yes, of course. You are those things. Are you also lazy too? Maybe. Are you also from New York and you justify your behavior because you're from New York, or you're from Malaysia, or you're Asian, or you're Western, or you're yellow, or you're blue? You're from the sky, or you're from hell? I don't know. I'm from hell, so I get to behave this way because I've suffered so much. Oh, okay. Right. Apply the argument to everything, and it doesn't make sense. And that's what we're trying to do, is like understand what doesn't make sense so we can insert. We're trying to break the pieces apart just a little bit. If you can create little bits of space between that, you go, oh, there could be a different way of seeing things, right? Oh, I'm seeing things a little bit differently. The lens is changing. Then you can go into that little space and be like, what the hell's going on in there? Right? Hi, guys. This is why I want your cameras on, so I can look at you through a different lens. I will find a way. Okay, here's what's going to happen. The day that all the cameras go on will be the thing that flips me over into total enlightenment. It's my last affliction, guys. Everyone has their last affliction. It's the thing that will be the last thing to go, like the very final thing before you flip over. Okay. We all have it. Mine is cameras. Okay. And once they all turn on, I will then, the heavens will open up and I will walk through the gates. All right. But what is your last affliction? That's a good thing to think about too. That thing that you think can't change. I'm from New York. All right. And there's nothing wrong with people from New York. New York's a great place. Okay. But think about that story. Like, anytime someone says, I'm this, it's suspect to some analysis. Okay. So in this, there's an assumption I'm making, right? And the assumption I'm making is that those things can change. Right. And that's, there'd be no reason to talk about this if they couldn't change. Right. And there's some great qualities of people from New York. So don't quote me on Instagram and make me look like an anti-New Yorker. I'm not. But everything can change. And so how do we do that, right? Like, what's the purpose and what are we trying to change? So we've always been pointing ourselves towards a particular experience, and that particular experience is a very rare and difficult experience to have, called the direct perception of emptiness, on the path of seeing, right? Where you see for the first time perfectly the emptiness of you, the perfect emptiness of Marina, the perfect emptiness of Natalia, the perfect emptiness of Janet, perfect emptiness of me, like me, Tim, or me, Rosalia, me, right? You see the emptiness of you. All right. Perfectly, directly. And then after that experience, there's a series of, when you come out of seeing emptiness directly, is like everything kind of goes back to the same. It goes back to look at the world, like you come back as you, right? And but you know something is completely wrong. You know for the first time that every perception you had prior to that moment was incorrect. And you know it directly. And then a series of realizations happen right afterwards, like say in the next day or so, that you finally understand how all of this works. And the way they get summarized as the four Arya truths. A person who has seen emptiness directly, an Arya, then understands four primary things, four primary realizations, direct understandings, things that you can never take away from them. And basically, you've heard this before, but basically they are: one, everything is suffering, right? And what that means is that things start, stay, and stop. The nature of reality, dependence, the nature of reality is that it's suffering, meaning everything is always changing. Always. Your high school lover who you got married to, do they look like they're still in high school? How do you look now? Are you still the same person you were when you met when you were 16? Oh, no, I'm me. Yeah. Like, well, how can you say you are you at 45 and then say, well, I was me at 16? It doesn't freaking make any sense. If you think about it, who's the me that was the me at 16 was experiencing love for the first time? Hormones, depends how you want to call it. Barbara, and apparently he's better. Excellent. She's got some good seeds, but he's changed, right? He was I don't want I don't want to make jokes. He's a great guy. Yes, right? So everything is always changing. The second thing you realize is that everything has a cause. All of those things are caused. All right. There's a way to end suffering, because suffering is not just about things changing. Suffering is also about your relationship to it. Okay. There's a end to that suffering. That's the third one. And then the fourth one is there's a cause to it. There's a path. There's a way to do it. Right? So you recognize these four things. Everything is suffering. Wah wah. It has a cause. Okay, well, that's nice. Third, suffering can end. And fourth, there's a cause to that. There's a way to create the end of that, right? The end of those cycles. Okay, I just explained the four Arya truths to you. Will the four Arya truths, as explained, remove every single negative emotion that you have? Got some shaking heads. Why? Why not? You can turn on your microphones and just scream it out. Right? Just temporarily. That's good, Laura. They're not permanent fixes. Why? Well, let's not get Nagarjuna, Sandra, but correct. Just because I told you about the four Arya truths and you can think about it, because you have to, correct. Roxana says it, like, because you have to experience it directly. For those of us who have not experienced it directly, they are a possibility to work on the seeds to stop it all, but they won't until you perceive emptiness directly. And so that's the main point, is we're trying to, it can't remove the tendency to see things incorrectly until you've seen things correctly. Does that make sense? Like, until you understand what actually is incorrect, you can't actually remove the incorrect because you're already always incorrect. Sorry. It's so effing depressing. Just turn off your Zoom, go away. You're already wrong. You know, but it's not hopeless, and it's not, and it doesn't mean those things can't help you, right? And they do help us, right? Because they can help us interrupt what's going on. I'm from New York. Really? That's a good story you're telling me. But does that mean everyone from New York is exactly like you? Are there replicants of you running around New York? All of them that look just like you and act just like you and make the same choices all the time? Don't give me that BS. Okay. Of course, like, you can interrupt it. Is it difficult? Yes. But there are ways that we can reduce those afflictions by understanding where they come from, even on an intellectual basis. So just for shits and giggles, the four Arya truths actually have 16 aspects to them. There's 16 realizations that get categorized into four groups of four. And those are the Arya truths. We're not going to talk about them today. Okay, it would take way too long. But understand that those four are actually broken up into four each. So there's like 16 main realizations that you have after seeing emptiness directly. That once you see it, you cannot change. Like, it's embedded into your beingness, because you understand you. You understand how you are becoming you, even if you now see it incorrectly. You know that it's wrong, 100%. It's like watching a train wreck. You know it's happening and you can't stop it. But you can stop it. The thing is, you can stop that train. And the more you understand about emptiness, will end up stopping that. Hold on a second here. I forgot to give you guys a picture so you don't forget. Oh, that was such a good example. I had a really good example to describe this, and I didn't talk about it. All right, we'll do that. Here's all right. The good example is, you can learn how to play chess, right? Here's all the instructions. That's what we're doing here, right? We're learning how to play chess in all of these classes. I'm giving you an instruction manual. We're giving you Lamrim, right? We're giving you everything you need, all the tools you need to have that 20-minute experience where you see perfectly, where that everything has no self-nature. Everything is coming from your seeds. There's nothing that's not coming from your seeds, including you. You, self of you, Marina, Roxana, Tim, right? But we're giving you the instruction manual. But that's a hell of a lot different than being Bobby Fischer. Okay. Bobby Fischer knows how to play chess, right? He's playing chess. He is an expert at it. if you sat in front of Bobby Fischer and he was looking at you like this, he has his signature move was he put his hands on his head like he was like pulling his brains out, right? Like get the best move, right? And he was a chess master, right? Like don't try to debate an aria. Okay. You will lose. Okay. Don't try to debate. I mean, people try. You see my whole screen? What? Oh, you're not seeing. Oh, you can't see the picture? Damn it. Too bad. Good thing there wasn't anything there important for you not to see. Is that better? Okay. All right. Whatever. You still get the point, right? That's part one, right? Just for the record, here's the manual and here's Bobby Fischer. Okay. But as I was saying, you can't see, you can't debate with an aria. If you're not an aria, you're already wrong because you think the person who's there who has seen emptiness directly is coming from their own side. You're already wrong. It doesn't mean don't have debates. It doesn't mean don't discuss things. Don't ask. That's not what I'm saying. But you're like the aria is already like if you ever have the fortune of being in the presence of someone who has seen emptiness directly, which by the way will be coming from you anyway, imagine what it would be like to be them looking back at all the people who have not. Right? Like, what do they see? I mean, I don't know what they're seeing. I mean, maybe they're seeing something like completely different. I don't know. It'd be like, have you ever like watched like 15 3-year-olds play in a, in a playground or like at preschool or something like that? And you can literally see everything that's going to happen 10 minutes before it does. You see which kids are going to get in fights with each other. You see the one kid who's going to fall down. You just see the disasters happening, right? And you can't stop them. You're like, well, there that go. Well, we'll watch that happen. Unless you're a helicopter parent. I don't know if you guys have that expression in other languages. If you're a helicopter parent, you pull your kid out before they get hurt. Um, but maybe they should get hurt so they can learn. I don't know. I'm not advocating more suffering. But really, like when you watch, like the older you get, the more you've seen. And so when you see someone's issues, like you're like, yeah, I dealt with that 20 years ago. And I'm sorry you have to, right? And there's not much that I can say to you that's going to help you. When someone's having an affliction like that, there's not much you can say. So just give them a hug, right? Make them feel safe, make them feel loved. Maybe we would all see emptiness more directly. Excuse me. Maybe we would more of us would see emptiness directly if we just took care of each other a little bit better. Like when we're having bad days. Maybe. So how are those mental afflictions? How do we have those in mental afflictions, right? Like where are they? Like how do we possess them? Like there's two different ways that we have them. Way number one is that the easiest way. They're manifest. They are happening right now. I am having a freaking meltdown. I'm having a panic attack. I had one a couple of nights ago. I've never had one before. It was really bizarre. Middle of the night. It was like my sleep app showed me I was up for 2.5 hours. It's like, huh, what was going on? I have no idea. But I was experiencing terror, high heart rate, high blood pressure, and I felt like I had no recourse. I had no control of anything. Right. That's obvious. Those are obvious things. By the way, it went away. It's fine. it happened. I got some help. And then there's the potential for them to happen. They are just there waiting. And my next picture is they're just waiting, right? There she is. She's sitting at a cafe waiting for her Tinder date to show up. Okay. She's waiting for her next mental affliction. That's what you should be doing. Okay. If you're having a good day, you should know that all of those mental afflictions are just waiting for you. They are not manifest yet, but they're just waiting. They're just hanging out there like the movie Inside Out. They're just waiting to express themselves. All right. So after you see emptiness directly and you start purifying your negative emotions, the last one that you purify is the subtle potential for seeing things ignorantly. Right? It's the subtle seed for seeing things the wrong way. Okay. Um, so we have all of these potentials in us. And the weirdest, I don't know, maybe I'm just a weirdo, but the more that I thought about these things and the more that I've worked to understand, like, well, what do different behaviors plant? Like, what seeds plant what results? I've actually gone on into this, I've gone on these little trips of what if I did this? What if I did that? And I start thinking about the craziest things that I could potentially do. I'm not going to do them. And then I realized that I have a potential to be everybody, anybody, right? I could be a sociopath serial killer, right? As much as I could be, a Zen Buddhist monk living quietly on a mountain, in a hermitage by myself, right? I could be all of those things. I could choose any of those actions, right? And it becomes a little scary because I'm like, oh God, I could do that, right? But it actually is the opposite side of that, is that then it really gets you into understanding the more and more subtle aspects of who you are and the karmas that you're planting all the time. No, I'm not going to be a sociopath serial killer. That ship sailed. Okay, lifetimes ago, I think. Okay, but there's the things that I do on an everyday basis, the way that I treat people, the way that I think about people, right? The way that yeah, the little nuances of the way that I might look at someone, or I might smile at someone, or I might, furl my eyebrow. I'm really good at furling my eyebrow, right? And being like, what the fuck is that? Right? But all of those things plant seeds, right? So you get into these layers of who you are. Once you understand the true nature of the name, then you have full power over it. Okay. If you truly understand why something is called something, then you have power over that thing. Okay. So if I have more power over who in that moment, if I have the seeds to realize that I can make a choice of who I'm going to become, my future self. Who do I want to see in myself in 10 years? I don't want to be this moron, who's constantly judging people and like furling my eyebrow and making side snarky comments about how ridiculous people are. Right? I don't want to be that person. So I have to make a choice. The more that I think those thoughts about people, more I become that person who continues to have those thoughts. Right? That's neurology. That's not Buddhism. It's both. But having that choice, right? And making that choice. And how do I empower myself to make those choices? That's the real question for me. Like, as a director of ACI, how do we as an we as an organization empower people that they can make those choices in the face of tragedy, in the face of disaster, right? That's why bodhisattvas go to places that are difficult, right? They go to places of suffering. They help people. They're making different choices because most of the world doesn't help other people. So do the other thing. Empower yourself to do the opposite, right? And then your future self will thank you for it. Your future relationships will thank you for it. Your future world will thank you for it. But that's this empowerment that you have that power within you. Now, it's difficult, right? It will be difficult. And that's why we do community too. So Maitreya, one of my favorite dudes, all right, let's just bring up a statue of him because this obviously is not him. But this is a statue of Maitreya. This is in New York, the Metropolitan Museum of, what is it? The Met. Okay. I can't remember what it stands for. It's a beautiful art museum. And this statue is there in New York. I'm from New York. Guess what? Maitreya is from New York. Maybe, could be. All right. The future Buddha, right? We say that he's the the next Buddha that will be here. Okay. And maybe he's a lot closer than we think. But Maitreya has described to us how we become ourselves, how we become who we are in self-standing ignorance. I like that. I know you're from New York, Lena. That's why I keep saying it. It's fun. So Maitreya has six things that happen to us if we don't see emptiness directly, that are happening way, way, way before you even have the words "I'm from New York" fly out of your mouth. All right. So here's Maitreya, the future Buddha. Maybe he knows something. I don't know. So we're going back to this picture, right? The potential, right? How do you get the potential for self-existence in this life? Very easily. You have it from your previous life. Okay? You brought it in with you. Okay. Your mind stream brought it with it. It carried it with it. It's like it's luggage. The luggage you can't get rid of. Okay. It's like that extra 5 pounds you're always trying to lose, but you can't lose it. All right. That's it. It carries with you automatically. All right, this potential for the two forms of grasping to self-existence. All right. The bakchak for that, this seed, that potential is already with you, daksin. The thing that the two forms of holding to self-existence are already built in. That sucks. It's already built into your mental DNA. You brought it from your past life. Well, shit, you're already screwed. Yep. Maitreya is telling us you're already, we say in English, you're already hosed. All right. So you bring it in with you. All right. And it's kind of depressing, but don't get too depressed. And because you brought it in with you, you begin to see two things, me and mine. Things that are me and things that are mine. Me and my parts. That mental potential, that potential that you get born with, starts as a potential. And then the first thing that happens, like the first seed that goes off, right? The sort of first step in the process is me and mine. Okay. So understand that this isn't just about traveling from one life to the next. This is also about every single moment. Every single moment is a death, bardo, and rebirth. Death in between and rebirth. Every single second. You have 60 perceptions a second. 60 seeds are going off. Okay. That you're perceiving. Okay. Oh, so there are 60 discrete self-existent moments in every second going off. Yes, kind of. Well, could there be 65? Could there be 70? Okay, sure, because everything's divisible. So in between each of those perceptions, you could think of it as that first perception dies, there's an in-between, there's a slight in-between, and then there's a rebirth. There's 60 of them that are happening in a finger snap, in every single second. And if you want to know the essence of Diamond Way, it's purifying that process, the death, rebirth, death, bardo, and rebirth. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to catch it and purify normal death in between and rebirth and make it extraordinary. But what happens is Tim's messing up his screen. What happens is you have that tendency, and then bam, they ripen as me and mine. So that's step 2, Maitreya says. Now that potential has ripened, it's too late. The bus has left the station. The ship has sailed. It is too late. It's already happening, folks. But it's good to know. The third thing that happens, and that I'll explain this in a second. That seed that ripens, all right, the me and mine, then forces you to see things as beautiful and things as ugly from their own side. Okay. We have a ripened tomato. That's why I chose ripened, like I'm trying to find a ripe fruit. Right. And then you start to see that it's beautiful or ugly from its own side. And tomatoes are ugly from their own side, from my point of view. I hate tomatoes. If you want to annoy me, give me a tomato. All right. I will make a face and I will throw up on you. And that's a promise. They're disgusting. Okay. For me, you see. So let's go back to the beginning, right? So there's a potential to see things as self-existent, the two forms of grasping. In those two forms, because you have the potential, it then ripens. It ripens into the two things, me and mine, the parts of me and my parts, which could be your body, it could be your outside world. And then that ripens into the next step is that you start to see things as beautiful or ugly from their own side. Right? Because you might like tomatoes. You know, good. Congratulations. I'm from, again, self-existently, I don't like tomatoes. Forget it. I try every once in a while to see if the seed changed, but it doesn't. I don't like them. They're vile. They're disgusting. Okay. If you put them in a sauce and you cook them down, no problem. So they're not tomatoes then anymore. They're tomato sauce. And that's a different story. Don't try to explain it. All right. Fourth step. What happens here after you start to have the tendency to see things as beautiful or ugly from their own side? First of all, they ripen and cause you to, did I screw this up? Oh, I kind of mixed these two together. I'm sorry. Right. First one is you have the tendency. The second one is, oh, I know why I did this. Okay. This is still part of the same one. This means focus. The reason I wanted to bring this in is because it's a little subtler. First, let me go back so I don't screw up your brains. First step, the potential. The second step is it ripens as me or mine. The third step is that it causes you to focus on nice things and ugly things as though they existed from their own side. All right. And so the reason I added this picture is because you focus on it, like it comes into focus, right? Before you couldn't see the cherry blossoms, right? The Japanese sakura, the cherry blossom trees are coming, right? You can't see what's going on. But then it starts coming into focus. Oh, that's beautiful, or that's ugly. Okay. And then the fourth step is that it causes you for ignorant liking and disliking to start. All right. You either give a thumbs up to the experience or you start giving a thumbs down to the experience. Like, I always criticize Facebook because it didn't have a thumbs down, right? It's only likes. Now I think it's kind of cool that if you don't like something, there's no way to like click a button to say you don't like it, right? It's forcing you to rejoice in things you like, which I think is a good thing. But once it comes into view, right? Once it comes into view, a beautiful thing or an ugly thing that's coming from its own side, because that flower is coming from its own side, right? Or that tomato. Then you have ignorant liking or disliking. You either like it or you don't like it. You start having body convulsions and vomit, projectile vomit when you look at a tomato. Dislike, right? Or you have a feeling of pleasure and calmness and joy and beauty and serenity when you see the sakura flowers, right? Down and up. We're not done. That's step 4. Then this causes you to do bad things. Why? Because then you start doing things to either push the things away you don't like. And this is why we have the expression, you throw tomatoes at things you don't like. You know, you go to a show that you don't like back in the day, whenever, I don't know when they did this, but if the performance wasn't good enough, they would throw tomatoes at you. Right? So throwing tomatoes at things you don't like, you go, oh man, get that away from me, and you throw it away. You want less, you want less assholes in your life. You want less negative emotions, whatever it is, and you will do things to push them away in an ignorant way that hurt people, even subtly. Same on the other side. Like, I got to see those beautiful flowers. Get out of my way. And you push someone, or you rush to get there to the front of the line. Right. And then grandma, who can't rush anymore because she's 85 years old, she's has the feeling of rushing because she still wants to see the beautiful flowers too. But she can't move as fast as you because you're 25 and she's 85. And you're like, grandma, get out of my way. Right. Then you do things to collect karma. And this becomes a little subtle, and I'll talk about it in a second. So then this is what causes you to, number 6, wander in samsara, wander in the cycle of suffering. You're just wondering, when is this going to end? Right? Walking through the desert. It's like, shit, how am I going to find the end of the desert? So Maitreya is pretty clear, right? You come into this life with a potential. It forces you to see me and mine. It then brings into focus beautiful things and ugly things. And you see them as existing from their own side. That tomato vine is out there by itself. Those flowers are out there by themselves. Their beauty, their ugliness. And then you start to have a feeling of liking or disliking. And then you act based on that liking or disliking, that ignorant liking or disliking, causing you to do things to plant more karma. And then you just have to wander around aimlessly in samsara, right? Well, that kind of sucks. So understand that this isn't just about coming into this life. It's literally every single second of those 60 things going off. That's what's happening, right? So, Tim, I shouldn't plant seeds for things that I want. It's not what I said. Okay. But you just told me if I'm ignorantly liking something, then if I do that, I'm going to plant karma, which is actually hurting other people, when that's just going to cycle in samsara. Yes, is what I said. But we're short circuiting the system. Okay. You're learning how to short circuit that process so that you can start to see how your actions actually create the world that you see. And then you start changing those actions. So you start changing, you're already starting from an ignorant point of view with a little bit of wisdom, and you start using the system against itself, right? It's like you're like the resistance, right? You're living in the empire, but you're the resistance, right? And you got to blow up the Death Star, right? And it's going to take a little bit, right? It's going to take a little bit of time. But the idea is we're already stuck. So we have to like pull it apart bit by bit. And we want to just create those little spaces, like having those little, and I like to call them micro emptinesses. Okay. So it's like you're microdosing emptiness. Like you're just getting a little, we should write prescriptions. Sorry. You're finding those little spaces where things don't make sense. You're just like, something's not right about this. right? And you're pulling the fabric apart, like you're stretching. Let me stretchy fabric here. When you stretch, like, I don't know, what's a stretchy fabric? Spandex? I don't know. Like when you pull something that's stretchy, and then you can start seeing the weaves of the fiber, and you can maybe see some light going through it, right? It was a blue fabric and you stretched it, and then you can see a little bit of the light coming through. That gives you an insight that maybe that fabric is not what the world really is, and then you get to look through. You see. Is that Enrique? The hot, sexy 16-year-old? Hello. Hi. It's good to see you. We were talking about you earlier. High school lovers. So we're working, if we can understand what's going on, if we can understand that we're already stuck, then we can unstick ourselves. But if you don't know that you're stuck, you can't know how to unstick, because you just think things are that way. I'm from New York. I'm from New York. Shut up. This is how I behave. Right? And that's what we do all day long. I am lazy. I'm a nice person. If you don't understand how you're a nice person, you're just stuck on the wall like all those other pieces of gum, right? Dry gum underneath the subway seat. That's what that is. Just you gotta like understand that you're just dried gum on the wall. I don't know how that's gonna work. But if you can understand, if you see that you are, then you can pull it apart, stretch it out, understand that that was created by something that had causes. That nice that you have has a cause. That desire to take care of other people has a cause. You're not bad people. You have some negative qualities. We all do. And if we don't recognize that, we can't get anywhere. But we have these good qualities too. Where did they come from? They have a cause. I want to continue them. Well, then keep planting those seeds. I'm having panic attacks. Okay, well, why? Okay, change the seeds for it. But that doesn't mean in the moment you don't take care of it, right? You have to change the seeds for it. And that's why bodhisattvas run into suffering. Like armies going, like, let's go to the most difficult places, right? One of the most difficult places to go, $100. All right, cancel the bet. You didn't move fast enough. Oh, okay. Laura, you probably were typing it when I said cancel. You get $50. Your mind. Send me a message so I don't forget to send me your PayPal. Get $50. Right? The most difficult place to go is you. It's more difficult to go inside of you and understand you than it is to go to a war zone and help people who are suffering. And that's why we're here. All right. Okay. There's a side discussion here that we're going to go through it really quickly. You can read it in the reading. I was trying to decide if we were going to do it today or not. So there's a side discussion that goes on in Shantideva where there's kind of this debate that happens between the lower schools and the higher schools. Okay. And I've been trying to figure out how it's relevant to this, because it seems just sort of random as it comes up. I think it has a very deep implication. So the main argument goes like this, and it's between lower track practitioners and higher track practitioners. And the Hinayana, in some cases, in some debates, will say that the Buddha never spoke the Mahayana teachings. They're not authentic. All right. And so there's this debate of how to determine the authenticity of what was the Buddha's speech. Sounds like the book that Tim's translating, written by Maitreya. Wonder why we have to see this right now. So there's this discussion like, okay, so, right, and it's a relevant discussion. Like people will say, well, did God speak the words of the Bible? Right? Like, are those the authentic words of God? Are those the authentic words of Buddha? Are those the authentic words of Muhammad, right? Or Moses, right? How do we determine what was authentic and what was not? Okay. So it's a really good question. And if you don't come to an understanding of it, that's when you get sectarianism, or worse. That's when you get religious wars. My God is right. My Buddha is right. You're wrong. And then people kill each other. The history of humanity. I'm right, you're wrong. My guns are bigger than yours, so I'm going to kill you because I'm right and you're wrong, right? I just gave you the history of the world in 3 minutes. Okay. But so there's these debates of did the Buddha only speak the Hinayana teachings, or did the Buddha speak the Mahayana teachings? The Mahayanists will say he spoke both. In some cases, I've been waiting my coffin for History of the World Part 2 since when did that come out? 1982? Okay, fine. Sorry, it's you had to have seen Mel. You have to be a Mel Brooks fan to understand what Mike Hoffman put in the chat. There's some really great movies he made. Great comedian. But not all Hinayana practitioners think this, of course. But there's this debate. Like, did the Buddha even speak the Mahayana? Right. And historically, or people get into long discussions about it, and you can read all about it. But the main argument that comes out is what's defined as liberation. What gets defined as what makes you liberated? Like, what makes you enlightened? Okay. And so different groups have different perspectives of what they mean. All right. So there's classically 3 types of descriptions of enlightenment. Okay. 3 enlightened states. And depending who you are, you will claim one is the enlightenment. Right. Okay. So in the Hinayana path, which is the lower track, which is not lower, I don't like it. I don't like the words, and it makes it sound like it's not deep. It's, if you're a deep practitioner on the Hinayana path, you can reach nirvana. You can reach the place where you no longer have any negative emotions. Not too bad. Okay. That path stops there, right? They've removed all the obstacles to their negative emotions. The Mahayana says that's not total matchless enlightenment, because you haven't reached a state yet of omniscience. You still have obstacles to knowing all things. But getting to a place where you don't have any negative emotions is pretty damn cool. Okay. So you can think about the importance of this. And so the question of whether the Hinayana will say, well, the Buddha didn't speak the Mahayana. Okay. Is that in the Mahayana text, in the Sutra of the Mother, and I'm going to give you a picture here, the Mother Sutra, the perfection of wisdom, okay, called the Mother Sutra, basically says, look, if you do not reach emptiness directly, you can't even reach nirvana. Okay. So the Mahayana text spoken by Lord Buddha, according to the Mahayana people, says that if you don't see emptiness directly, you can't even reach nirvana. Okay. So does that prove that the Mahayana was spoken by the Buddha, or does it just, or can a Hinayana person say, well, yeah, that's true, and you stole it from the Hinayana, which the Buddha spoke, and then put it in your Mahayana text? Okay. Sorry, translators. So you have to think about it. Like, I mean, it's a much larger question than we can resolve in 5 minutes here. But I think it's very relevant to the argument that someone says, I'm from New York, therefore I can't change. Okay. Because if you hold to a particular point of view that says the Buddha didn't speak the Mahayana, I would argue it's almost as bad as saying I'm from New York. Self-existently. Okay. And you have to meditate on it. So I meditated on it quite a lot yesterday. So just take time to think about it. Like, how are those two related? And that's kind of the point of the ACI courses is I can't give you all the answers. You have to sort it out yourself. All right. That's why this class is hard. Okay. And so like the other thing like the Mahayanists will say is like, well, yeah, the Lord Buddha did speak the Mahayana and he spoke the Hinayana. He spoke both. And we respect both. They're both valuable paths. Right? You can reach nirvana by seeing emptiness directly, but you have to see emptiness directly. Right? So you have to think, you have to spend the time thinking about it. And then the other argument that they use, and you have to meditate on this, and we'll end here today, is when someone's trying to describe something as authoritative. All right. So the argument is, well, our texts are authoritative and yours are not. All right. The source of all suffering. I'm from New York and you're not. Okay, I'm just bashing on New York right now. I'm from this country and you're not. Okay. Source of war, source of hate. Right. The color of this person's skin is the best color, and this color is not the good color. Source of war. Right. Source of inequality. Right. So in the argument that gets utilized the against this perspective that our texts are authoritative and yours are not. And I have to think about it and then meditate on it. Is that the argument that the Hinayanists use against the Mahayanists is actually, this has parallel reasoning. And this is, we're starting to move into ACI 13. So get on your thinking caps. Start getting into logic, because this is the introduction to logic. Yay. The next course is the scariest course, because that's the course where you lose half the students. So parallel reasoning, okay? The thing, what this means is the argument that you use to prove your point, if I applied the same argument to you, would prove my point. So basically, you can't use parallel reasoning because you're not actually proving anything. Politicians are excellent at it, by the way. If you want to learn how politicians win votes, come to ACI 13, starting next January. Okay. You will learn how it is that people utilize false logic to then persuade people to wrong conclusions. Okay. And if you can learn, you can use it in your relationship, or you can use it in country politics, doesn't matter. But it'll sharpen your mind's capacity to see through the illusion. The point is to see through the fabric that you think is just there by itself on its own. To see through that when someone says, I'm from New York, better when you yourself claim, I'm from New York and I can't change. And you'll be able to see through that and understand that the arguments that you're using break down somewhere. And if you can hone that capacity of your mind to see your own mind doing those things to yourself to define who you think you are, then you have a hope for change. You can catch yourself. You can catch yourself in the illusion. And I'll tell you from my own experience that it can be difficult. The process to get there is difficult, but catching your own illusion can be painful as well. But once you catch it, then you can quickly change it and purify it and clean it out and move it on. And you can become a very different person very, very quickly. Because once you see the illusion, you have two choices. You can either continue to engage it, but once you saw it, you can't unsee it. So then you have a choice. But if you had planted the seeds to be able to see it in the first place, probably the choice you'll make is to stop it. Because in order to plant the seeds to see it, you already have to be a good person. You already have to be kind to others, and then also kind to yourself. So I did not actually tell you what the parallel reasoning was. We'll come back next time, because I still have last class to finish up too. So I know there's pending pieces that have not been discussed, and that's okay. We'll get through all of it. The main point really is, last thing, is how do we change? And that's what we're learning. How do we create lasting, impactful change in ourselves and in the world? And so we have to go into these smaller places to open it up and see the, stretch the fabric a little bit and see that those things that you say about yourself, are they true from their own side? Is it true? And then when you analyze it and you say, well, no, it's not true that it's just like that. It's like that for a reason. Like, if you were born in the example that I saw in the chat that said all Malaysians are late, I don't know if that's true or not, right? Maybe all Malaysians are late because everyone shares a similar karma because they put that in, they planted those seeds together. They all planted those seeds individually and ripens as a country of people who are always late. So it has nothing to do with Malaysians. Or it has nothing to do with New Yorkers. Or has nothing to do with, you know, why are all New Yorkers the same? Maybe they share a similar karma. They're not all the same, but understand, and not all Malaysians are late. Duh, that's stupid. But you see, like, why were those causes in place in the first place? And then you can pull it apart. All right, I can keep going, but it's time to stop. Bye. Let's take a half-hour break. We will be back to talk about some meditation and Lam Rim if you want to stick around. And thanks for joining. Thanks, tech. Thanks, translators. And thank you. And let's say goodbye. If you're leaving, even if you're taking a break, say goodbye to each other. Love each other a little bit more. I need to have a sign off. I'll figure it out. And see you guys in about a half hour.
Gracias, Tim.
Thank you.
For a beautiful class.
Gracias, maestro Tim.
Bye-bye.
Es invitado a Colombia.
Thank you.
Спасибо огромное.
Thank you, teacher Tim and
Guys, we're
translator.
You, teacher Tim.
Ciao.